Welcome to Burning Questions, and it's a podcast from our company, 500 Degrees. And 500 Degrees is a content development and fulfillment shop. We have offices in Toronto, Miami, and Columbus, Ohio. And we've got great clients, some of the best in the QSR world. We've got Burger King, Tim Hortons, Popeyes, Firehouse Subs. We've got clients in the convenience store industry, which is morphing and changing to become what's next in a fuelless future. And we have new clients in the automotive industry, particularly automotive dealers for Honda. And that shopping pattern from a retail point of view has changed. I've always been fascinated about retail, the path to purchase. And I've been fascinated with you. I'm a bit of a fanboy for Paco. I'm going to admit that right now. You are known as the OG of retail anthropology. And if you go onto Amazon, your books are on the top selling list. You're a New York Times bestseller. This is the classic, this book, Why We Buy. This really lit my fire in terms of how people shop, from the collection of product on store, well stocked, to the size of aisles. What women want, call of them all, obviously has changed. And then how we eat. And I would encourage everybody to run, not walk, engage with you if they have a corporate job that they need behaviorists to work on, but also to get these books or download them, Kindle, read, watch your podcast. They really will open up your eyes in terms of what's happening in the world of retail science. So welcome, Paco. Tell us a little bit first about the companies that you work with in terms of offering consulting services and retail science.
Let me answer that question a little differently. Okay, Matthew. Okay.
I'm into that.
40 years ago, I was a poor part-time adjunct instructor in a doctoral program in environmental psychology, or the effect that space has on people's behavior. And I was part of the research crew that would go around to different cities across the country and work on zoning laws based on traffic patterns and topography. I had my moment of epiphany on the roof of the Seafirst Bank building in Seattle. 60 stories up, I was installing the cameras on the edges of the roof, and there was a stiff wind blowing, and I could feel the building rocking in the breeze. And while you can't see it, Matthew, I'm 6'4" tall. And the joke that I often tell is I'm one of the only tall people I know that gets height sick with 2 pairs of socks on. Okay. And up on the roof of that building, I promised myself I would reinvent my profession.
Yes.
And a week later, I was standing at a bank in New York City getting madder by the moment and realized that the same tools that I'd been using to look at how a city worked, I could go inside a bank, a store, a hospital, an airport, a doctor's office, and be able to deconstruct how they worked and how they might work better. I had never taken a business course. I'd never worked in retail, but one of my first clients was Citibank looking at the first ATMs. One of the second client was Burger King,
Right on.
looking at the pad and the installation of the first salad bars. Part of what was astonishing for me then, as a environmental psychologist, is that almost all commercial research, and this is in the 1970s into the 1980s, was based on media research, meaning people ask questions. And I knew that what people say they do and what they actually do are often very, very different. And what was really wonderful is that in doing the work, whether it was for Citibank or starting with Burger King, we were able to come back and go, here are 3 things we think you should try out tomorrow. And they almost always worked. And if you can go give people some quick, easy, tactical victories, getting them to buy in to the strategic issues are eminently easier. So the company that I founded in Viracell became the principal testing agency for prototype stores and bank branches in the world. I am the son of a diplomat. I grew up offshore. English is not my first language. And over the course of the next 15 years, we opened 10 offices scattered across the planet. And I spent maybe 120 to 150 nights a year on the road. It was really, really fun.
Yeah.
And part of what we were looking at is what is global and what's local. The fact that we were able to bring both international experience, but often in the broader world of retail, being able to look at tactical issues was really important. And the intersection between design, visual merchandising, marketing, and operating issues. So, and from that point on, we started to build other tools. And certainly for the past 10 years, some of Envirocell's largest clients have been technology companies because we've built similar tools to be able to deconstruct, websites, web presences, and apps. And I again look at the difference between what is global versus what is local in terms of, somebody's market. So, you know,
So
if you'd asked me 35 years ago whether I'd be seen as an expert in retail, I would have asked you what insane asylum you were escaped from. But part of what's true for many of us, Matt, and I'm guessing both for you is that we often get taken places that we had no idea we'd end up.
no, I agree completely. I tell my kids and the 100 employees we have at 500 Degrees that we're in the door opening business, that not the door closing business, and get comfortable with engaging intellectually in problem solving that the clients themselves don't even know how to solve. And they'll find somebody. It can be us. We all have brains. And our company, and companies that I've worked with previously at other ad agencies, we've been involved in retail design. And what's interesting is there seems to be two schools of thought. One is what I would call the lipstick and the makeup of creating a prototype store that looks really good and is vibrant and is an exciting, um, and almost a entertainment function associated with it, and others who are really dialed into the strategic function of the retail environment. And we've always started with, and this gets us business, and sometimes it doesn't get us business, but to be different, we will say, look, we start at the back of the store and work forward because there are many things that create an environment for an associate or a customer that really takes away from the shopping experience. Dock to stock, bathrooms per se. We've had I was yelled at by a CEO when I told him that the bathrooms looked like you could film a heroin PSA in it, and they were actually quite proud because we don't put a lot of money into those things that aren't producing cash, but it's all about that touch point. And I'll just add one more thing is in today's environment where finding associates and hiring them and keeping them long term, reducing the churn in the retail environment is really important. When you take a look at the employee break rooms and their check-in, it doesn't look it looks like a prison locker room. And to me, there's an opportunity to start at the back, but then there's also the opportunity of what's the shopping pattern that's going to cross-sell the best, sell forward, and sell up. And I'll drop it off at that and see what kind of comments you can deliver.
Well, I mean, first of all, I think one of the things I'm very cognizant of is that there are a series of biological constants, okay? The things that aren't changing. 90% of us are right-handed, okay? We tend to push with our left hand and pick up with our right hand. I may be 6'4" and my lovely wife may be 5'3", but the ratios of hand to mouth, hand to floor have all stayed roughly the same. We also know that the way our eyes age, meaning that my eyes at 72 and my stepdaughter's eyes at 25 are predictably different. Okay. What we also know is that for all of the things that stay the same, one of the things that makes retail interesting is the evolution of us.
Mm.
And that what made a good store in 2000 and what makes a good store in 2024 is different. And that evolution is a reflection of what's going on and changing within us. Okay. And part of what I think is very important in the broader world of retail and the broader world of cyber design too is just understanding what is a constant and what it is changing and getting to a better meeting of art and science.
Oh, yeah.
Um, and, there are 6 issues here that we've been tracking. First is the recognition that the connection between our eyes and our brains has been fundamentally changed by our relationship to screens,
Mm-hmm.
and that the broader world of physical and cyber is getting really fuzzy. I can walk in to a QSR C store, and the number of people who are there with their phone in their hand is sometimes 40%. Okay. Second is the role of gender. And this is a very interesting one because, Matthew, with each passing month, the number of households in North America where the woman is the dominant bread earner goes up. Women are 60% of the graduates of institutions of higher learning. And any mother will tell you that she's much more likely to have trouble with her learning challenged son than she is with her daughter. Okay. And, this fundamental role of gender within the context of our culture is getting eminently more complicated. Okay. Um, and I had a run-in with a discount store client similar to the one that you had, where I led a group of guys into the women's bathroom and said, "Men don't talk about bathrooms. They don't report them. They don't care. There's often very little tension in a men's room. We walk in, we unzip our pants, we do whatever we have to do. Sometimes, mostly, we wash our hands and we leave. But in the women's bathroom, there's often tension. There's tension about cleanliness. There's tension about who's in there and what they're doing in there. Um, and therefore, the premise that a women's bathroom is either an asset or a liability, but it is never nothing. Okay.
Perfect.
And in terms of back to the store to the front, for example, do you know that there's a Mexican supermarket chain which has come up with a way of using a forklift truck to restock end caps and shelving units? And part of what they're doing is making it easier for somebody to restock shelves.
Right.
The forklift truck comes up, they bring it back into the back room, they set it down, the team re-merchandise, they take it out on the floor, and they cut their restocking time and cost by 20%.
Yeah, less time
And
people are tasking and more time serving customers. Really important. One of our clients was Bed Bath and Beyond. God rest their soul. But during the time that we worked with them, they were really focused in on hypermarché, which is stock it to the roof. And that was partly because they would just buy, incredible volumes. They had no place to put it, but they were very focused when they were in their heyday of making sure the associates weren't tasking and could direct people to the product, because people come into a retail environment to buy, not necessarily to browse and walk out the door and have lunch.
well, I think this is part of what also, one of the things, for example, that's been an interesting issue for us is going to the store management teams and going, if you have a name tag, list the language skills that somebody has. Okay. Just recognition here of that process. The other thing which I thought was interesting at Bed Bath and Beyond is that if an end cap is too perfect, somebody is reluctant to touch it.
Sure.
And
Just
that
that.
you can often just do a little adjusting here, and all of a sudden the conversion rate of people picking stuff off it is dramatically changed. I mean, this is part of what makes our job fun
That's
here
fascinating. I
is,
mean,
yeah,
would it be an issue of somebody puts together a perfect Keurig K-cup stack out
yeah.
pyramid, nothing out of place? Is it the behavior of the customer going, "I just don't wanna touch it because it looks so good," or do you have just one box maybe off kilter that creates that motion of, "Yeah, okay, there I'm here to buy K-cups, let's go."
Yeah, let's go. I mean, this is what part of what makes this job fun is you often can do just a little something that makes a big difference.
In terms of, and you talked about the screen, big believer in it. We've seen it. We've talked to our clients about it. Um, Incredible sea change post COVID. I remember getting a call from the then president of Burger King right in the throes of it. And he said, "Hey, look, in 3 weeks, you guys have to create all of the stickers, all of the decals, all the sanitary communication for associates, as well as for the guest experience, from the door handle all the way in, floor decals, you name it." And we did it. It was a global exercise, but from that point on, there was something in the back of my head that said, we are really going to change what's happening. I got past the pre-depression stage of, is the retail world ending or is the world ending, into, this is going to be a fascinating short for people to pick up on it. You, in our preamble up front before we started rolling tape, you talked about some of those changes to in post COVID, and wondering if you could sort of walk along with us and see what you've
Okay,
seen.
let me. We started with screens. The second was the role of gender. The third is generational.
Mm.
Okay, and this is recognizing that once we reach age 40, 80% of our weekly purchases are the same thing. I mean, we have already decided we like Grey Poupon, not Gulden's mustard. Okay, whereas the 22-year-old is still making decisions and still figuring things out. And I think one of the things I find interesting, Matthew, is one of the roles of retail in the future is better matching retail to homes. Meaning that if I'm going in to buy the Grey Poupon, why do I need to buy it in something that was designed to scream at me from the shelf and not something that looks beautiful within the context of my kitchen and goes into a recyclable, dishwashable container? Okay. Okay. And that eco issue here in terms of the future of consumption. But I think this is a very important one. Second is that with better supply chain management, we are able to shrink the size of the store, meaning that I can have the same number of SKUs in a store that's 25% or 30% smaller. So, again, we talked about screens, we talked about gender, we talked about generations. The fourth one is the role of time. And I think this is one of the things about the Gen Z issue here, which is that all of us in a post COVID world are desperately multitasking. And I can stand whether it's the doorway to a store or a shopping mall or watch somebody as they go online and make a fairly accurate judgment as to how loud the clock is ticking inside their head. And I think that 1930s premise that the longer I hold somebody, the more money I get out of their pockets just doesn't work anymore, because there are so many of us that are anxious. My kids are coming home. I got to get back to work. Where is my husband in this process, to be able to say, I'm here to have a leisurely experience here, and I don't care how long I spend in Stop and Shop, so long as I can get everything that I
The
want. So
retailtainment uh, black
right.
hole, perhaps. And let
Okay.
me ladder on for a second on that thought, because the interesting thing about this generational comment that you're bridging is, we've designed path to transact, or path customer journeys with sort of a style for a boomer millennial that's either coming into a restaurant or retail location or through drive-through. And when we've observed Gen Z, sometimes there isn't too much communication difference. When you're at the bottom of the funnel, you're limited in terms of the phrasing and the headlines that you could do. It's basically, block and shop. But they are big and have really introduced retailers and QSRs into pickup or delivery. And the brand experience at that time is smaller and is shrinking. And it's one of the things that we're dealing with right now in terms of where do you actually hit it? You hit them on the screen prior to coming in, and they're going to pick it up. So why would you have a mediocre pickup location or a pickup experience? Just a thought.
No, I think that's very, very accurate. Part of what we have to acknowledge here is that the cutting edge of retail design, Matt, left North America more than 35 years ago.
I agree.
And that I can point to examples of pickup stations at a metro in Turkey that make what happens at the top U.S. merchants, grocery stores, mass merchandisers shameful here because somebody's actually thought it through, and there are awnings, much less an ice cream vendor out there who will sell you an ice cream cone while you're waiting for the delivery to be made.
Yes.
Yes, I think this is an opportunity. The other thing which we don't recognize, Matt, is that often, why isn't there a hybrid shopping trip where I go into the store to pick out the things that I want to pick out, and that everything else that I know, laundry soap, whatever, is ready for me at checkout or at a drive-through? And the interrelationship between store design and QSR design in terms of pickup is something I'm going to be talking about at the plant convention next week.
Wow, that's great. Well, good luck with that speech because I think I'm going to be able to go out and check it out. So if I see you, I'm going to high five you and thank you, and then I'll be in the audience. The shopping pattern conversation is always fascinating. The difference between now Gen Z is 11 to 26, so we kind of concentrate on people that can drive 16 plus. And it's a micro audience, but it's really deserving lots more attention as we migrate in, because you have to take care of Gen Pop, and then you have to also take a look at who's that new audience that's coming in. You travel the world. What are some of the things that you're seeing now that are interesting to you, and you're seeing some other experts, some other people that are morphing the retail experience into something incredible, people that you're really impressed with?
Well, first of all, I just got back from Dubai,
Wow.
and certainly
Eye opener.
Dubai is one of the epicenters of modern shopping. It has taken over the role of Paris and London as a destination for new money. Okay, meaning that you go to the shopping malls of Dubai and you see more variety of people than you will see virtually anywhere on Earth. And that's the issues also in terms of training there too, which are very impressive, which is somebody looks at somebody walking in the door and has figured out, is that the wife of a Somali warlord? Or is that the uber wealthy Indian from Mumbai here? And how do I adjust my pitch or my offering or my greeting in terms of them? So I think that's one. Do you know where the largest market for my books has been over the past 5 years?
Oh, tell me. You're going to rock my world.
Simplified character Chinese.
Wow. Yeah, for sure.
And I think, again, for all of the, recognizing that there are places in the world where money is younger. Okay. And while China is certainly going through some middle class challenges over the past 15 to 20 years, it was the fastest growing economy in the
Mm,
world here. Okay. And I think paying attention to places in the world where money is young and where the nature of management is more um, collaborative than combative.
right.
So if I go to Mexico, for example, often the holding company for a retailer is also the holding company for a distributor.
Mhm.
And therefore, people are often discussing issues on the same side of the table rather than across the table.
Vertical.
Oh, yeah. Okay. And that often leads to, for example, I saw more women in grocery store management in Latin countries than I have in all of my work in grocery here in the US.
Back to your point, the idea of having a retail environment and access to product where you need them or along the path in your journey from home to work or to school or back.
Looking for opportunities. For example, we have been working on some airport retail issues where the premise is there is no stock in the airport. I go, I try something out, I fall in love with it, I order it, and it's delivered to my house. And therefore, you know, getting people to try, for example, a massage chair is something that's easier to do in the context of an airport
Mm.
than it is in the context of a shopping mall.
Yeah, I'm kind of like Jack Reacher, not because I'm big and I'm vicious in a fight, but I tend to travel a lot and I buy on the road. Basically, Johnson Murphy airport shop and I'll pick it up. Or to your point of just connecting the dots, I'll order it, get the size, have it delivered to my next destination. That's a fascinating logistical supply chain. And
Yeah, that's true.
when you think about the delivery experience, particularly in the food world, and maybe it's a Gen Z thing, maybe not, but delivery has really, lit up the world. The brand experience, though, I think a 2.0 conversation would be, how do you make that brand experience rock? Is it the delivery company, like a Grubhub, or is it the brand that is being delivered by Grubhub? And what's the experience like? And are people paying attention to it other than, oh, it's another distribution channel and whatever, people like it?
Okay. I think one of the things to be very cognizant of here, and this gets to my next question of what is global and what is local,
Mhm,
that there are so many, Silicon Alley designers that are designing for the convenience of Silicon Alley.
mhm.
Okay. And we know, for example, that delivery trucks don't work the same way in Brooklyn, much less Harlem or in East St. Louis than they do in Palo Alto or somewhere else. And that there are many of us that don't work from home and therefore aren't there to be able to accept the delivery. And is there a better way of doing it? Um, I saw in a very fancy Vegas apartment building, they had little doors in the side of the wall next to the front door where you could open up and put your delivery in there, close it up. And the only thing I asked is, shouldn't that be refrigerated?
Yes, exactly.
And with two doors on either side. I mean, just anyway, I think there are some innovations here. Um, do you know what a kirana is?
I wish I did to be
A
smarter, but I'm
kirana
not.
is the Indian convenience store, convenience grocery store.
Hmm.
Okay, and there, if you go to any Indian city, they're everywhere. But do you know what is interesting? Is that for many of them, some of the majority of their sales are based on delivery,
Hmm.
where somebody calls up on the phone and goes, "I'd like a stick of butter." Okay, I mean it isn't, and some little kid,
Hops on his
runs it
bike
out the yeah,
or
and
runs
gets
down.
it to where it wants it to go.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and that's like a logistics, stocking, fulfillment, upside down. Um, sort of concept that it can break through. I took a course, night course at Harvard on the fintech revolution, and the fintech is so associated with these new retail locations of a cashless interaction, easy to use, and I'm sure it's cashless. I mean, is that kid running around with a QR code reader, or is it taken care of on um, a credit account? How do they even work the transaction on that?
They mark it out and they pay monthly
So good.
in cash.
Yeah.
Yep.
I need that here
That's
in the US. In your book, How We Eat, the you talked about from supermarkets to cannabis farms and how they will adapt and thrive. Any thoughts on overall from that book that you'd like to highlight or focus it in on how does the QSR industry start to morph into issues with labor, real estate, food production costs, changing behavior? Just thought I'd throw a softball out and see what you thought.
well. Um, I think there are a number of issues that are very important. One is there a way of being able to get local better? Okay. Second, is there a way of getting healthy? Okay. Okay. In writing that book, I lost 25 pounds, and my blood pressure went down, my cholesterol level went down, and it was just by understanding and processing how the supply chain and food chain works and starting to make some very simple better choices. That premise of the 1950s, that finish off your plate. When I stop hungry, I stop eating. um, these are ways, going in to a grocery store in February. Do you know where the freshest blueberries are? They're in the frozen food section. Okay. I mean, there are ways in which we can make very simple changes to our diet. And one of the processes that I'm working on now is there a way to get past recycling
Mhm.
in terms of bottles and cans and containers and bags and whatever, and get to compostable packaging? Um,
Seems to be a
our
no-brainer, but
There's some innovations in the supply chain that are overdue, and that's one of the reasons why I'm really thrilled to be going to Toronto and dealing with the plant protein group.
love it. Well, when you're up there, have some Tim Hortons, walk into the retail environment. Anything that you see that's a visual, from the menu boards to the posters to the photography, we've redesigned. It's really an exceptional experience. One of the number one brands up in Canada, obviously, but their retail formats changed so much from super micro locations embedded in pop-ups to, you know, big real estate commitments off of the interstate there. We could talk for hours, and I want to have you on again. And I encourage everybody to go to Amazon, look up your books, read them. I'm going to ask you one question before we leave is, what are you reading? What's on your bedside table? What podcast you looking at? What fascinates you? Like, I can't wait to get back and read or
Okay.
do.
Let me tell you the book that I'm working on right now.
Perfect.
Okay. Okay. It is about an Afro American cowboy born in the mid 19th century who was an amateur collector of bones. And much of the fundamental changes in paleontology are rooted in some of his discoveries.
Wow, that's incredible.
And I have been researching George now for a while, and I'm really excited. The book's about maybe 30% done. And I'm hoping that not only is it a book, but it might be a cowboy movie too.
That is, I'm fascinated. I can't wait for that book to come out. That'll be on my
Yeah,
bedside table. But thank you so
cool.
much for today, man. This has been eye-opening. You're one of my retail heroes. I appreciate you coming on. I hope we work together soon. And we're just going to sign off. Where can people find you? How do they find you?
You can find me at pacounderhill.com.
With that, we're going to sign off on Burning Questions and see you next time. On the next episode of Burning Questions, do you want to know the ABCs of marketing to Gen Z? Well, don't we all? We're going to separate generational facts from fiction when we go inside the marketing mind of Maddie Bregman.
This generation moves so fast. And so something that is a trend today or an influencer that is relevant today, quite literally might not be tomorrow.
She's the founder and CEO of youth marketing consultancy Girl Z. Tune in to Burning Questions.